All right, it's now time for our random thoughts, a very popular weekly segment, always available on our YouTube page, Best of Delaware Sports Debate, along with a couple other segments we pick each week. And I'm John Buzby, along with Marty Sheehan. And my first random thought is that the University of Delaware needs to do something about the lack of students at its football games as the season goes on. Great turnout week one, okay turnout week two. This past week, playing William and Mary at home, they end up upsetting the Tribe. I literally, at one point, my wife looks to me and says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm counting the number of students sitting in the north end zone, which is where the student section has been moved because they don't need the south end zone anymore. South end zone seats 4 times as many people. They don't need it. So they sell those seats to people that actually want to come support their football team." What is the answer? I'm not sure. I can tell you when this started when my oldest son was in college at the University of Delaware. This is a kid who barely ever missed a game during the regular season growing up, just like my two kids. Their two kids are going through right now. But he and his friends did not come down to the University of Delaware games. Why? Because they got really strict about drinking. When I went there, Marty, as long as you didn't act like a jerk, the cops left you alone. Again, that was back in the dark ages. And I'm not saying the university should go back to just letting parties happen all over the parking lots. I'm not saying that is the case. But they need to do something to get the students excited about their home football team. Now, the first thing they need to do is win football games. Yes. And again, I'm not going to go on my rant about how we were knocked out of the playoffs before trick-or-treating this fall. And that's been the way kind of for the past decade for the most part. And so that's the first problem. Kids are not going to make them walk, and it is a walk from campus. That's another disadvantage they have. And yeah, they have shuttle buses, but who wants to get on a shuttle bus? And so it is a disadvantage. I don't know what they can do, but they need to get somebody in the marketing department figuring out what do we have to do to attract students down here to the football games and keep them there. Sure, you could give T-shirts away, and the tickets are free. You know, big time colleges, the students don't get tickets for free, or if they do, it's in a lottery, and then you have to pay for them after that. But these tickets are free. And so you could give away T-shirts, you could give away coupons, you could give away gift cards, and you get the students in the gates. I want the students still there in the fourth quarter when there's a field goal that's going to be kicked toward their section and they're going crazy. Because right now, if somebody had to kick a field goal into the north end zone direction last night to win the game, or yesterday to win the game, and you're William and Mary, it's like a home game, or it's actually like a practice because there's nobody in the stands.
You're right.
And so I want the home field advantage, and it starts with a student section. I'm not sure what the answer is. So I'm not one of these guys that's going to complain and moan and say, I have the answer. I don't have the answer. I wish I did, because I would help in the process of fixing it, because it's sad to see the student sections on a beautiful fall day. It was a beautiful fall day, a 1:00 game. So it's not interfering with any major partying going up on campus. Everybody's back on campus by 4:00, going wherever they go on a Saturday night. And the turnout was just pathetic. A bad job by the University of Delaware students. Don't know the answer, but something needs to be done.
Yeah, I pulled it up on Flow on the TV at the College Football Central, aka my living room, and I texted you before I even saw your note and said that this is pathetic. They showed a shot of the student section, and unfortunately, someone at Flow decided to pan out from showing a couple kids, and they appear to be the only kids for quite a while. I was really shocked, especially at how great a day it was. So yeah, that was disappointing to see, and I'm sure UD does not like to see that, and Chrissy Rao like to see that on these broadcasts, the empty student section. I'm going to go a little different here. We're going to go back to when you and I were calling games for 1290. Going back to Bam Roberts, if people remember him, Avery Roberts at Conrad High School. Just a beast of a linebacker, a running back. He went to college as a linebacker, got recruited by Nebraska, played in a couple games his first season, 4 games, redshirted, then transferred to Oregon State. And since he's been in the Pac-12, he has been tearing it up. In 2019, he led Oregon State in tackles with 84. In 2020, in an abbreviated season, he led the entire Pac-12 in tackles with 69. And this season, he is right among the league leaders, the Pac-12 leaders again, with 98 tackles, 7.5 for loss, 1.5 sacks, an interception. The week of October 4th, in a big upset over Washington at the time, he was the Pac-12 Player of the Week, the first defensive player from Oregon State in 4 years to achieve that honor. 16 tackles, including 3 for loss. He had an interception. So quietly, we don't, and for whatever reason, I know the News Journal, excuse me, doesn't have a ton of resources to do this stuff, but some of these kids are doing phenomenally well. I just happened to stumble upon Avery Roberts, to be honest with you. I was looking at Delaware players who moved on to college. I was trying to find Debo Samuel and what he's doing down at South Carolina with Braden Davis headed there now. But yeah, Avery Roberts, Bam Roberts, it's been a while. He is a fifth-year junior at Oregon State, so he'll presumably be back next season, but he is tearing it up for the Beavers. They're 5-4. They suffered an upset last night that's really going to hurt their bowl chances, but they've had an up and down season. Hopefully they get to a bowl because and if they don't, it won't be because of anything that Avery Roberts hasn't done.
Great athlete, siblings, great athletes too. Also played football at the next level. And one of my favorite stories, Marty, is when I went there to do a Saturday morning game. I can't remember whether you were with me or not. And I met the lady in the concession stand who was there 2 hours before the game to help prep. And you know who that was? Mrs. Roberts, the mother of these fine athletes. And I thought, wow, how great is this? This is a person who's, at the time, the kid was already being recruited by a lot of places. And, you know, lo and behold, great family producing great kids. And so that was just one of my favorite stories. All right. I'm concerned about Major League Baseball, Marty. My sons, who are two huge sports fans, the two that are living with us now, I'm not sure if my oldest son watched any games or not of the World Series. But between my two sons here in the house and myself, we watched 0 pitches in this year's World Series. No interest whatsoever. Didn't help that it was the Braves and the Astros, and what a nightmare matchup for Major League Baseball. You know, half the people in Atlanta aren't Braves fans. They're there because that's where their employment is. And unless you live in Houston, you're not a Houston fan. And so just a nightmare matchup for Major League Baseball, but it wouldn't have mattered unless the Phillies were in it. I'm probably not watching, maybe watching the Yankees and the Mets for some relatives, that type of thing. But, you know, it's hard to get excited about a baseball game when you turn it on and it has the first pitch hasn't even been thrown and it's 8:45 at night on the East Coast. Oh. And you know, if the game is a fast game, fastest game in baseball history, you're still up to 11 o'clock watching it and you got to go to work and school the next day. So I don't know what the answer, well, I do know what the answer is. Put the games on at decent times. And if you're a big enough fan in the West Coast this day and age, you can watch a live stream on your phone when you're trying to pretend you're working. But they got to do something or start them at 7:30, 4:30 on the West Coast, something like that. Just make it so that I'm not going to be watching the World Series after the 11 o'clock news is over. Otherwise, there's no way I'm tuning in. And I'm not letting my kids sit up and watch the games. Even if they wanted to, I'm not letting them in there. So I'm concerned about what Major League Baseball is going to look like in the next, let's say, 20 years from now, when they're going to have no fan base in the age group that you and I are in.
No, I agree. And to follow up on what you said, I don't get, are the West Coast ratings worth more than the youth of America becoming totally apathetic towards baseball? But these games, you're right, they start so late. And then, God, one of the pitchers for the Astros the other night had a windup that took at least 7 or 8 seconds to complete after every pitch. And then, you know, they still haven't done away with this thing, which they have at the college level, where you can't step out of the box all the time at college and the high school level, where they usher you right back in. And Little League, you can't put 1 foot outside of the box or it's a strike call. After every pitch. And after every pitch, you know, I always go back to guys like Nomar Garciaparra, who would step out and redo his batting gloves, his cup, you know, make sure his pants were the right length, readjust his batting helmet. These games are just too dang long. And yet sometimes they're exciting at the end. My brother watches every pitch of the World Series and loves it. I kind of tune in a little bit more. Like if there's a Tuesday night action game between Akron and Northern Illinois, I'm watching that instead of baseball right now, as much as I love baseball. Because it's just more excitement. You know, the baseball is just so slow, and with lacrosse and soccer and field hockey and these sports, kids are just not gravitating there. You know, my nephew Michael, Mike's son, plays baseball now, and he loves it. But you know, my brother and I talk. It's gonna be tough to keep him interested because of the other sports that he's into, where it's like rah rah, move, and baseball's kind of sit and wait for a couple innings till you bat again, and maybe you get a ball hit to you once every 3 innings. And so yeah, I get where you're coming from. All right, my next one is just real simple, and it should be pretty quick. The high school football COVID rule. Mount Pleasant and Friends had that game yesterday. Because of Lake Forest losing to Del Mar and Friends beating Mount Pleasant, the committee was spared an uncomfortable situation. You know, it's the second year in a row where they've said we're not going to allow COVID to adversely affect the team. They got to stop saying that, because if you're not allowing it to adversely affect a team, it is adversely affecting the other team.
Right.
It's just, that's the way that, it's like physics. That's the way the world works. If one's getting screwed, the other's doing okay.
Very black and white.
Exactly. So my solution is simple. If a team cannot compete because of COVID, they are the team that has the COVID issue, give them a no contest. Right. They still have a chance to make up the game later or with someone else or schedule another game. Give the other team a win. That other team did nothing wrong. There's no reason that shouldn't count as a game for them. They were there. They're on the bus. They're at the game. They're ready to go. There's not a team on the other side of the field. I understand why they don't want to do a forfeit, and they're going to say, well, how can you have a winner and not have a loser? Well, guess what? They've altered the rules in the past. Last year, they altered the rules at the last second. It kept Howard out of the playoffs. Sussex Central gets in. They win the whole thing. So in this COVID world where things are going to be different, use some common sense. Give the team that has to forfeit or has to bow out because of COVID a no contest. Give the team that didn't have the problem a win. Very simply evens it out. Now at the end of the season, we all presumably will have the same number of games, except for the teams that had the COVID issues, which is the way it should be. The other teams should not be adversely affected.
And unlike me, Marty, you have a solution to your problems and your issues. I don't have one to the two I have, but I did that. And I will make one correction for you, as you did to me. It was not Howard who didn't make the playoffs. It was Hodson, who didn't make it. Right. Sussex Central.
Yeah, the defending champion. Yep.
So
Thank you.
All right. So this next issue, I do have a solution for. I've never understood, and it happens all the time, and it happened to the Sixers last week, and it brought it to my attention even more. Why, when an NBA team has to play back-to-back games, why they can't just do it in their home arena? Last week, the Sixers played at home versus the Bulls. Game ended around 10 o'clock, 10:15. Obviously, it wasn't a baseball game because I was still awake. And then they had to shower and get on a plane, and they had to fly to Detroit to play the very next night. Why? I have no clue. You can't tell me that somebody can't figure out a schedule where you still have the same number of teams, which I think every team plays X number of back-to-back games, and I don't know what it is. You can't tell me you can't figure out a way for them to play back-to-back in their home arena. It's already a disadvantage that they're playing back to back, and they're usually playing a team that is not playing back to back for whatever reason. So fix it, NBA. This is an easy fix. UD students at the games, not an easy fix. Solving the future of Major League Baseball, not an easy fix. The NBA is an easy fix. Just make sure that when a team plays back to back, it's in their home arena. Plain and simple.
I like it. All right, for my last one, I'm going to stay close to home, and you'll be kind of in this story because I'm going to talk about Appo soccer. Appo soccer won the state championship last year. They got off to a rough start this season. In the game against Salesianum, they replaced their goaltender with a freshman named Riley Buzby, who then took over the next game as the starting goalie for the rest of the season. All Riley did was go 8-2-2 in those 12 games with 7 shutouts. And I want to give a shout out because I know you said the defense is phenomenal in those games. You're texting me during the games and stuff. I love following this. But your son, the freshman, by the way, true freshman, no college, no redshirting here in high school. True freshman Riley Buzby, 8-2-2, 7 shutouts. Appo gets in as the Flight A champion, correct? They're still using the Flight A championships and the other sports. And they get the 7 seed. They will play number 2 Charter, who has only 1 loss, 1 tie in the season on Wednesday night. So just a great opportunity. I know you've been proud as heck of this, and I follow I always text you and say, another shutout for Riley. No, it's been a great job by this Appo soccer team, the entire team coming back. I know they lost a lot of talent from last season. They have really fought, and don't be surprised if they give Charter a game, and who knows what can happen. So Wednesday night, Appo at Charter in the soccer state tournament.
Well, I appreciate that. I had no idea you were going to do that and give them a shout out and point Riley out. And we appreciate that. We're certainly proud of him, my wife and I. But let me add on to that. I think we have the best 4 defensive backs as a unit in the state. If I had to pick one defensive unit to put in front of my son, they would be it from a soccer skill standpoint. But what this team has done to embrace him as a freshman, and this is a program that doesn't usually have freshmen on the field that are when they're playing. And so for them to embrace him the way they have and support him, and it's a senior laden team, and for them, the way they have treated him, and he still has to pick all the balls up after practice. We kind of joke about that. But he, the starting goalie picking up the soccer balls, but he does it with a smile on his face. And part of that is because the way that he has been treated and how the coaching staff has handled the situation and how they have supported him. And so we're, as I said to him, we're in a plus situation now. You made the state tournament, and now you just sit back and you wait and see what happens. And it's been a successful season. Only 8 teams make it. And as I told him the other day when I was driving him to practice on Saturday, I said, have a great practice. There's 50 other teams who wish they were going to practice on a Saturday morning. So
yeah, it's funny. I looked at their record and I'm like, my God, if this was football, they'd be like a top 2 seed, but of course, instead of 30 teams making the playoffs, soccer only goes with the 8 in each division. So yeah, great accomplishment. So congrats to Riley.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. And we'll look forward to it. And, that's a good lead into a shout out for all the playoff games that are going on in every sport this fall.
Yes.
No sport is done. And so go out and support them. Even if your kid doesn't play, go watch a field hockey game, go watch a soccer game, go watch a cross country meet, obviously football. It's just volleyball. Don't want to forget volleyball. They're actually the furthest along. Volleyball, I think, is almost in the semifinals, probably will be by the time
they're just about to get to the quarterfinals.
Yep. And so it's a great time of year for high school sports to do that. All right. Speaking of good time, I have a feel good story to wrap up our random thoughts. At the Newcastle County cross country meet, I believe it was on Saturday at the championship meet, there was a Concord runner who fell at some point along the course, and a kid by the name of Xavier Balcom from William Penn, and I apologize if I mispronounced his name, he stopped and he helped this kid. And he not only helped him up, he then ran with him the rest of the way in. So he basically sacrificed his own time, which I don't know whether this Xavier Balcom kid had a shot to win the meet or not. It'd be a great story if he did, or whether he was just a runner that qualified and he was trying to get some points for his team. Either way, what a great story that he helped this kid and he put this kid's health, because, this isn't like you're running around a track, Marty. Cross country running, you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
And so it's not like there's somebody right there who's going to run out and help this kid when he goes down like he would on a track, in a track meet. And so hats off to Xavier Balcom from William Penn, stops, helped this kid from Concord up, and then helps him, basically jogs in to the finish line with him. However, many miles was left at that point. It was on Facebook. And actually it was the Concord's runner's mother who put it on Facebook because she wanted to know, somebody got a picture of it and she wanted to know who the kid was, so that she could reach out personally and thank him and make a big deal about it. And I just thought that was a great story, a great feel-good story to finish our random thoughts.
That's really awesome. I love that. To piggyback off that, I was watching a game on 302 the other night, and Benny Mitchell was calling it. And he pointed out during the game, and I had thought this previously myself, and he said, I don't think I've ever seen a season where more opposing players are helping other players up after tackles. Yep. And it's almost like this whole COVID thing has kind of brought people together a little bit. And I agree. I was thrilled that he gave it a shout out on the broadcast. So kudos to Benny. And watching the games, I see the same thing, and I'm seeing it more and more in college and even the pros where they're helping guys up. I love to see that camaraderie. At the end of the day, you're all going back to whatever you do after this game. There's no need to for the meanness that takes place sometimes during the game.
And one last sport to look out for in the fall is the Special Olympics unified flag football. 8 teams will make the flag football tournament, and the state championship game will be played alongside either one of the class 1, 2, or 3 games, either before or right after it, wherever those games are decided. That still hasn't been finalized. So didn't want to forget the Special Olympics unified sports and flag football. Make sure you follow them along as well. That's going to wrap up our random thoughts for this week.